evening, everyone, and I'm back. Welcome to Thursday Evening Live with Pastor Steve. Let's go ahead and have a word. Oh, Dick and Nardine are here. Let's go ahead and start with a word of prayer. Hi guys. Let's pray. Come, Holy Spirit, that through your word we may be guided into the love of God for all the world. Amen. I have been on vacation for the past 2 weeks. Hey, Chad. People are asking me if I had fun while I was gone, and I did have some fun while I was gone, but that was not the purpose of this vacation. I was just burned out from working straight for a year and a half, really. I took off just a couple days after Christmas. I haven't missed a Sunday since the middle of 2019. Took off only a few days in the middle of last summer. And hey, Mike, good to have you here tonight. And I was just exhausted and didn't even realize it. I thought I could go until summer and everything would be okay. But I realized as we were moving in toward Easter that, nope, I needed a break. So I did all the things I needed to do to keep myself healthy, got more exercise, ate a little bit better, spent some time reading things that were not related to work, got some projects done around the house that I have been letting go for a while. So yes, it was a good 2 weeks off, and now I am back. And you will see that I have a new microphone here tonight. I don't know if the audio sounds any better for you at home. The main purpose of this microphone is not actually for the podcast. I'm going to use it for podcasts since I have it, but the main reason that I actually got it is because I'm going to start working on the audiobook version of Spiritual Courage. I know most people these days don't have time to read like they used to. Becky does all of her books through audiobooks. I do a good portion of mine that way as well. So I am going to create an audiobook version. And yes, you can do that yourself these days. Just like you can make a book by yourself, you can make an audiobook by yourself too. And I will be narrating it myself, partly because my ego is too big to let me hear somebody else's voice uttering my words, and partly because I don't want to pay somebody else to do all that work. Gene says hi. Good to see you back. Good to be back, Gene. All right, so we're in our new format tonight. We're going to only lightly touch on the scriptures for this coming Sunday. And so if you want the message for this coming Sunday, you need to tune in this coming Sunday. Hey, Joan. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody again. I missed everybody while I was gone. I have not yet watched the videos of the church services while I was gone. I checked in both Sundays to make sure everything was working, but I did not watch the entire service. I said to myself, I'm going to let go of this. I'm going to let them handle it. I'm not going to get stressed out about this. I'm not the little boy with his thumb in the dike, thinking that you get the point. Anyway, so this Sunday, moving on into the Easter season, we are going to be talking about John chapter 15, verses 1 through 8. Jesus said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it may be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. This is the word of our Lord. Thanks be to God. All right, so moving on to other things going on in the Methodist world right now. I'm sure many of you are aware that we're in a very strange place in the United Methodist Church right now. 2 years ago, 2019, we had a specially called General Conference that was designed to create a way forward for the denomination. The most progressive wing of the church has been at war with the most conservative wing of the church over human sexuality and some other things for my entire adult life, going back to 1972, my childhood. They've been at war, and in 2019, there was a hope that we could work out a compromise that would allow all of us to stay in one denomination and yet be true to our own consciences. And I was hoping that that would be the case. I'm not particularly sympathetic to either the extreme conservatives or the extreme liberals. I wanted to work out a compromise. Although I am progressive on most matters of human sexuality, I'm not progressive on too many other things. I'm evangelical in most ways. So I was hoping that we could be different from the rest of the country, because the entire nation is now polarized. People are being radicalized, I would say. A lot of people have said people are being radicalized. And I was hoping that our denomination could show the country that it was still possible for people who disagree to be in community together, to love each other together, and to work forward on work together to move forward on common goals. That was my hope going into 2019. That general conference, which took place in St. Louis, I actually went and attended all week, and it was an absolute disaster. People behaved badly. And the result was that we decided to basically have a schism. And although I was initially opposed to it, I am no longer opposed to it now. The framework for that to take place was supposed to be voted on at the General Conference in 2020. Now, this is a global event, General Conference. It always takes place in the United States because we have the technology infrastructure to make it happen here. But we are a global church. Half of us are in Africa, and the rest of us are scattered around the rest of the world now. But, of course, we had a pandemic begin last year, so General Conference didn't happen, and it was pushed off a year until 2021. Well, now we're in 2021, and the pandemic is still ravaging the world. International travel in most places is still shut down. It is not possible to bring people here physically to the United States to hold General Conference. So the question was, can we do it virtually? And the answer to that question is pretty much no, because, like I said, half of us are in Africa now. Actually, more than that. And Africa is in night when we're in day, and we're in day when they're in night. So there would not be a good time of day to hold these things. Not only that, but much of the portion of Africa where United Methodism is strong, there is not a good power grid. A lot of people have power during the day, but not at night. And a lot of places have only rudimentary internet access. So we would not be able to hold that in that way. So, my wife just texted me. So we could not have a virtual General Conference. So the General Conference could not be done in the United States because people can't travel here from. So it's been pushed forward again, and will not take place now until 2022, which means the separation protocol cannot be voted on by the denomination until 2022, and congregations themselves cannot vote on which way they would want to go until 2023 at the earliest. Okay, so this is all now years it's been stretched out to, and all of the people who were hoping to leave the denomination had already laid the groundwork, and the question was, well, what were they going to do? Were they going to wait until the protocol took place or not? And the reason that they would want to wait is that, in the United Methodist Church, each congregation is held in trust by the people of that congregation for the denomination. So we do not own Mount Zion United Methodist Church. The United Methodist Church owns Mount Zion United Methodist Church, and we hold it in trust for them. Most United Methodist churches are quite old, and were paid for by people who are long since dead. And the money that was given by those folks was given for the purpose of creating a church in the United Methodist denomination. Well, in those days it was called something else, but you get the point. So whenever nonprofits do stuff like that, you have to be very careful how you do it. And what it generally needs to happen is that the congregation needs to purchase its property from the denomination. Now, this protocol that we're going to vote on was going to allow congregations to leave without purchasing their property, but they were still going to have to buy their way out of the pension plan if they were not going, because the people who have retired from our denomination are funded by the overall denomination on the old pension plan. Anyway, it's very complicated, but so most people shook hands and said, all right, we're in limbo here, so we're going to just, drive under a yellow caution flag, and we're not going to do anything provocative for the next couple of years. Some people said, no, I don't feel obligated to live by that. So where we are right now is some congregations at the extreme ends, on both ends, are leaving earlier than we would have expected them to leave. So as of right now, we've got 3 very progressive churches in Maine that are leaving the denomination. We've got 1 very progressive church in Houston, Texas. That's right, Houston, Texas. A large, fairly large, very progressive church is leaving. We've got 1 very conservative church in Illinois that is leaving. And we've got a couple actually that actually already have completed the separation, I believe. These are the ones that are currently in the works. And we've got 1 large conservative church in Marietta, Georgia. Now that one is particularly interesting because they are leaving not so much over these things, although they certainly have made clear that they're upset over these things. They're leaving because the bishop dared to attempt to send them a new pastor this year. Now, this church, I think it was 5-6 years back, when their senior pastor retired, they said that they would not accept an appointment from the bishop. This made Methodist news back then. So the bishop agreed to share with them in a nationwide search process if, of course, only United Methodist pastors will be considered, and the bishop had to approve and appoint the person that they chose. And after a nationwide search, they chose their associate pastor to take the place of their retiring pastor. Surprise, surprise. And the bishop blessed that and went along with it. Now, 6 years later, the bishop wanted to reappoint that pastor somewhere else, and he said no. He turned in his credentials. Now, the interesting thing about this church is this church has routinely refused to pay its apportionments in full. So this church that thinks it's being treated unfairly, somebody did the math, and over the past 5 years, they're short about $1.7 million in apportionments that they should have been paying, most of which goes to pay for ministries that are local right there in Georgia. So people are behaving badly in some places. Our conference, people are generally behaving pretty well. I've heard some stories of some things happening that shouldn't have happened. People doing stuff behind their pastors' backs. That's never cool. But at any rate, at this point, I am all for these extreme churches leaving. The conservatives have made it clear that they want to form a denomination that is going to be quite different from us. They're not even going to use the Wesleyan Quadrilateral. They've pretty much said, or at least some of them have said that they're going to get rid of it. The people in charge, the people that are the theological spearheads of it, have said they want to get rid of the Wesleyan Quadrilateral. And the people at the very progressive end, they're forming a denomination that I would have absolutely no interest in at all. And they're just so far outside of the center on the things they want to do that at this point, I'm willing to let these folks go. And, like I said, initially, I wanted the United Methodist Church to sort of serve as an example for the country, and I still do. I still do want us to serve as that example, but it's going to have to be in a different way now. In other words, we're going to have to say, look, there are some people who just want to fight, who just want to do their own thing, and there are those of us who want to meet in the middle and come together and work stuff out, and we're going to set an example for how that can be done. I hate to see people go, but there are people who are not interested in unity. There are people who are not interested in dialogue. There are people who insist on always having their own way. They're not willing to say, all right, well, in our denomination, we can have more than one way of doing things. No, the way I believe it is right has to be the rule for everybody. Well, those folks need to quiet down so the grown-ups can talk, to put it bluntly. Extremism is the enemy. It is ruining our denomination. It is ruining our country. It's really starting to spread to the rest of the world. And on the one hand, as you guys know, I would never want to intentionally ostracize somebody. But at the same time, when the rich young man walked away from Jesus, the Bible says Jesus loved him, but he let him go. You can't force them to stay. And if they're going to be a disruptive presence, it is in the best interest of everyone to let them just go their own way. All right, so who else we have here? Carmen is here. Hey, Carmen, good to have you here tonight. So, other things going on, religiously speaking, nationwide. Evangelical leaders have finally started to come out in support of the vaccine, including some more prominent ones like Franklin Graham. All of them have gotten strong pushback from their base, I guess you would say. Most of these folks don't have churches per se. Most of them have gotten strong pushback, but they're staying the course anyway. They're telling people that evangelicals need to go out and get this vaccine. One of them is a professor at a Christian university in the South. He actually got a death threat from his folks, from one of his folks. But he's not stepping down either. Hey, John and Gaylor here. I'm going to continue to ask everybody to get the vaccine. I know that not everybody in the congregation has decided to get the vaccine yet. I'm going to continue to strongly urge everybody. And let me explain to you why. Okay? It's not just because it's in your own best interest to do it, although it is in your own best interest to do it. The United States needs herd immunity. We have herd immunity for the measles, right? So there are some people out there who are not... Hi, Tony. There are some people out there who are not vaccinated for the measles, but if they get sick, it's not going to cause a new outbreak because they're surrounded by people who are vaccinated. So if one person who isn't vaccinated gets the measles, it's not a big deal. It doesn't go anywhere. It just stays in that one little pocket and it stops right there. That's what we need for COVID-19, okay? Now the problem is, unlike the measles, we cannot vaccinate children for COVID-19 yet. Hopefully we're going to get to that point in the very near future, but we cannot. And a lot of our country is children. That means to reach herd immunity, which they say for this would be about 70%. Really, they would want higher, but bare minimum 70%. That means basically all of the adults in the country need to get vaccinated unless they've got some health condition that prevents them from doing it. Okay? So if everybody in the country who is old enough to get vaccinated gets vaccinated, then we have herd immunity. And once we have herd immunity, then this pandemic in this country is done. You'll have a few little people get sick here and there every now and then, but it won't ever spread anywhere beyond because everybody will be vaccinated, okay? If we don't reach herd immunity, what is currently going on will continue to go on, which means we will continue to have periodic spikes like we're having right now in different parts of the country, which means when we have those spikes, that means we have to have more lockdowns, that means we have to keep the masks. If we don't hit herd immunity, we will continue to have some form of pandemic protocol in place indefinitely, okay? Now, here's the sad thing. The CDC has already stopped talking about herd immunity because they no longer believe it's possible in this country because too many adults are refusing to get the vaccine. I'm hoping that these people who are not getting the vaccine this year will next year say, all right, well, it's been out for a year. I guess it was safe after all. I'll go back and do it. Because if that doesn't happen, once again, things will not go back to normal. Not really, until we have herd immunity. So please, please, please get the vaccine. Your arm will be sore. You might have a fever the second shot, and then you're good to go. All right. Local church news. I am back in the saddle this weekend. I will be preaching on Sunday morning on Jesus being the true vine. That's what I'll be preaching on. I really appreciate the fact that people came forward not just to preach while I was gone, but that also people came forward to learn how to use the technology to keep us online while I was gone. So we now have a small but growing pool of people who know how to run the laptop and the cameras and all of that good stuff. And I hope to continue to grow that, because we need to continue to invest in our online ministries. At this point, by invest, I don't mean money. I mean we need to invest sweat equity and making it the best thing that we can, which means it cannot be a one-man show anymore. So, looking forward, with the 8:30 service being a hybrid service, which means that it is taking place in person and online. Right now, the 10 o'clock service is just in person. It is not hybrid. We have the potential to make it hybrid. We would have to work out music licensing for some of the stuff we do, or just decide not to use some of the stuff that we do. Rebuilding the church over the next year. How do we go about doing that? Once again, folks, the mission of the church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the community. And we have various ministries in the church that carry those things out. The 5 basic functions of the church, and different famous Christian writers like Rick Warren and a couple others have written about these in different ways using different terminology. But the 5 basic functions are worship, fellowship, discipleship training, mission work, and evangelism. And when Rick Warren coined the initial version of this, he saw it as being a cyclical process, in that somebody invites you to go to church, you worship. After you worship for a while, you start meeting people, you form friendships, you become part of the Christian fellowship of that church. Then you start taking classes, participating in programs that help you grow as a Christian. That's the discipleship training element. And once you begin to mature as a Christian, then you want to participate in the church's mission work. And then once you participate in the church's mission work, you start wanting to talk to other people about the things that we are doing, the things that you are doing that have become valuable to you. And that is a part of evangelism, which in turn invites more people back into worship. So he saw these 5 functions of the church as being the 5 stages of Christian development. We now know that they don't actually work in stages like that. Different people, different personality types, different generations enter that process at different points. Some people are more likely to accept an invitation to a Bible study than they are to worship. Some people are more likely to accept an invitation. Oh, hi, Wendy. Are more likely to accept an invitation to go on a mission trip than they are to go to a worship service or a Bible study. It doesn't really matter where you enter the process, as long as the different ministries feed into each other and are in fact doing the best job that they can be doing. Now, we've got a great 8:30 service here. It's a very traditional service. A lot of people have been happy with it for a long time. It does skew older. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the kind of music that I grew up with. We've been more experimental in the 10 o'clock service. I believe that we need to continue to invest in that. And once again, by invest, I don't just mean money. There probably should be some money involved in this, but we need to make that the best worship service we can. And when I say best, I mean the best that we can do. And there's different styles of worship that appeal to different people. No one type of church is the best type for everybody. You know, there are churches out there that for a growth-oriented worship service, they're going to use fog machines and lasers and strobe lights and stuff like that. That's not the kind of worship that I do. That's not the kind of worship that I am interested in doing. But there's a lot of different things you can do in worship that appeal to younger folk. And appeal is probably the wrong word. That speak to younger folk that we haven't necessarily tried yet. Now, we've got a good multi-generational thing going at the 10 o'clock service. I want to keep that going. I want to grow that. I want to make that our new growth-oriented worship service. I believe to do that, we're going to need a staff pianist and a staff guitar player. Wendy is with us tonight. Wendy will not be with us forever, though. Wendy is moving back west at the end of the summer, so we'll be losing her. When I say staff, I mean somebody who can rehearse with the singers each week. So growing churches today, regardless of the style that they're, whether they're traditional or conservative, generally have worship or music leaders, which means when the congregation is singing, whether it's singing a praise song or a hymn, there is someone leading them in the singing, and that's not the pastor. So it might be a guitarist, it might be a keyboardist, it might just be a soloist being backed up by those people, but there's somebody in front of the congregation who is singing loudly so that people can follow the tune, because you're learning new songs that people don't know. Even the old songs, a lot of people don't know them, so by having that voice to follow, and also they also generally introduce the songs, do some prayers and stuff like that. And that's a very different thing from the anthem. And they're not called anthems everywhere, but usually in a church service, you've got several songs that the people sing. Of course, right now, our people aren't singing anything because of the pandemic. So, once again, we need herd immunity if we want to be able to sing in church. So everybody's got to get vaccinated. Once we can sing in church again, you'll have 3-4 songs the congregation is singing. Then you'll typically have one song or two that is something that is just sung by one person, and that's not a performance. That is actually a part of the message. That is part of the content of the message that morning that is being conveyed to the people. So instead of singing, they're just listening, and the message is penetrating them that way. So I feel strongly that that's what we need to do with our 10 o'clock service. I also believe we need a new approach to fellowship. We need an approach to fellowship, not just fellowship time, but fellowship in general, that is specifically designed to get visitors to get to know each other and to get to know folks in the congregation. So in other words, the fellowship time the main point of it has to be to form new friendships, as opposed to what most church fellowship times do, which is gives old friends a chance to catch up. Now, that's great for old friends to have a chance to catch up, but that can't be the primary, that needs to happen elsewhere. We need to have a fellowship time that is designed for new folks and new relationships. And one of the ways that a lot of churches do that now is to set up fellowship time very differently from how we normally do it. We normally have a bunch of tables with chairs scattered around. People get their food, they sit down with their friends, they talk. Fellowship that is designed for people to get to meet new people is designed to make people mingle. Okay, so you don't have a lot of chairs sitting around. You don't have a lot of tables sitting around. If you have tables, they're the high top tables, so people can have a place to sit their drink or their food or whatever while they're talking. But it's designed to have people moving around like they would at a cocktail party. Okay, so you can have a bigger room with smaller conversations going on, but those conversations are fluid and people are coming and going and people are checking in from one group to another. So that's the type of fellowship we need to develop. And I personally don't think that fellowship time should follow the 8:30 service. I think the 8:30 service should have their own fellowship time. That's very much like what we're doing right now to allow old friends to catch up with each other. But then during the 11 o'clock hour, when we're having youth class, when we're having bell choir rehearsals and stuff like that, we need to have a different type of thing. Hey, Jenny Edwards is here. We need to have a different thing going on during the 11 o'clock hour, a fellowship time for people to make new friends while their kids are doing different things. Which brings me to the next thing, which is discipleship training. Obviously we were doing Zoom classes at one point. Right now, we've got some in-person classes starting up again. I'll be teaching some new classes in the fall. So we have got two time chunks on Sunday morning right now. We've got for the kids anyway, we've got the 10 o'clock hour and we've got the 11 o'clock hour. So right now we've got children in Sunday school during 10 o'clock. We've got children basically having fun during 11 o'clock. We've got youth in worship during 10 o'clock, which is good. That's where I want them. I want every age group to be in worship as much as possible. And then we've got youth in class at 11 o'clock. Then, of course, we've also got the confirmation class, and we've got more youth actually in the confirmation class, which is going on right now over in the other building. We've got more youth in that on Thursday nights than we do in youth class on Sunday morning. And I'm beginning to wonder if we need to rethink how we do classes, especially for youth. When I was in high school, I participated in a youth ministry, not one that I would recommend at this point, so I'm not going to say the name of it. But they had 2 weekly gatherings. They had one that was primarily about fun and had a very light message, and then they had one that was no fun at all. It was just in-depth Bible study for people who were interested in that. And I'm beginning to think, in the church growth movement, you view Sunday morning worship as your evangelism time. You're hoping that new people will be coming to church every week, and that church is the opportunity to make them a part of the church community. I'm wondering if youth fellowship should actually take place on Sunday morning. And I'm not the only one saying this. There are lots of pastors and youth leaders around the country that are saying now that Sunday school for middle school and high school just doesn't work anymore. The best thing to do with high school kids and middle school kids on Sunday morning is either have a fun and game time for them. Make Sunday morning, because they come to church for an hour, keep them in church, have them sitting in there, have them listen to the sermon, and then after church is over with, they can just, play ping pong or shoot pool for an hour and, meet new people that go to different schools and so forth. And then have a youth Bible study later in the week, like we're doing right now with confirmation, and have the kids who are real serious about the Bible come back later in the week for that. And if there are kids in the Sunday school, if there are kids on Sunday morning who do want to participate on Sunday morning, put those kids in the Sunday school classes for the little kids. Make them your teacher's helpers and stuff like that. Youth are great for stuff like that. And then you don't have to worry about you're pulling the kids out of class to help out with the younger kids. So that's an idea that I'd be interested in trying. Now, we got summer coming up, and we're hoping to go outdoors again this summer so we can sing outdoors. And I was thinking, maybe we can do what some communities in Australia do on Sunday mornings, which is that they have communal barbecue on Sunday morning, which means at the local pub, of course we're not a pub, that you could do it at church, you've got a gas grill set up, and everybody brings a meat, and everybody brings a side dish, and you grill it, and it's just like a potluck every Sunday morning. Well, maybe we could have like a potluck lunch every Sunday morning this summer for whoever shows up for church at 11, church at 10, 11 o'clock. We'll have our potluck lunch, and then in the fall, see what that evolves into for the 11 o'clock fellowship time. Just throwing an idea out there. Now, I'm just throwing ideas out, but I'm real serious about these ideas. I really want to try these things. So you can see my mind has been working quite a bit while I've been relaxing, which is good because it was working in healthy, productive, creative ways instead of just getting frustrated and angry. All right, so finally, the last two things, missions and evangelism. We do some great mission work in this community. We do a lot of feeding. We do a lot of helping people with emergency financial needs. We have the Appalachian Service Project that goes out every summer. We're going to be doing that again. We couldn't do it last year because of the pandemic. We are going to be doing it this year. Right now, I think we've got 26 people going to Appalachia, high school age, middle school age, adult volunteers, and that's all well and good. What we don't, that's not just well and good, it's great. Okay, I'm huge supporters of these ministries. I love community food banks. I love mission trips to Appalachia. I go on those whenever I can. I'm going this year. We're not doing any mission work in the community that is what I would call evangelistic or transformative mission work in the community. In other words, we're not doing anything that attempts to change the character of the community. And there are ministries out there that already exist that don't exist in St. Mary's County yet, that as far as I'm aware of, that we could attempt to do. Now, a couple years ago, we looked at Financial Peace University and thought, hey, let's offer some financial peace classes down here. We looked into that. We weren't really happy with the program itself, so we chose not to do that. But certainly, that is an opportunity where we could help people. We could put together our own program like that teaches people how to be financially responsible from a Christian perspective. There's an organization called Better Angels, which has a cause that is near and dear to my heart, which is helping people from across the political divide learn how to speak to each other respectfully, learning how to speak to maintain civil discourse. I know one of the exercises they do is everybody has to speak purely when people speak in these groups, they have to speak for themselves only. In other words, you can't say, "No, I'm not one of these people that says blah 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 blah." You can't say anything like that. You have to say, "I believe this," okay, and you have to do it without saying anything pejorative or disrespectful. And they've done great work helping communities come back together again. That's the type of thing that I'm talking about. Stuff that is transformative. We could hold events based on certain topics that would help people come together and maybe see things in a different way, and not in a provocative kind of in-your-face kind of way like we're seeing so much of in the news. That's not at all what I'm talking about. Anyway, so evangelism then is not just advertising, which we do a lot of now. Evangelism is also people talking to other people about what we have going on in the life of the church. So those are the things that I think that we need to be working on this summer and going into the fall, things I'll be talking to the board of directors about. And I know people are asking, what's this new board of directors do? And the answer is they run the church. And the second question is always, so that means they're doing everything the trustees did and the SPRC did and the finance committee did and the church council did? And the answer is no. We have a maintenance team that is going to be taking over a lot of what the trustees used to do. The board of directors does some of what the trustees used to do. The idea is to change the types of conversations altogether. Everybody who has served on any church committee at any church in their life has sat through some meetings that did an awful lot of conversation but actually didn't resolve a whole lot. So it's not that we're trying to take over every conversation that all of those teams used to do. It is that we are trying to streamline our leadership into some very productive, pointed conversations, ending meetings with action items and people's names next to those action items so that we can get some strategic stuff going and get this church firing on all 12 cylinders again. Almost said all 8. Hey, let's go for a V12. Go big or go home, right? All right, so prayer concerns for the coming week. Al Richards is I've been following Linda's. I didn't check Linda's to see if Linda posted anything today, but Al was supposed to start treatment on Monday, but his white cell count wasn't where it needed to be, so it got delayed. I don't know if he has had a chance to start it yet or not, so please keep Al in your prayers because she cannot be there with him because of the pandemic. If we had herd immunity, maybe she could be there with him. Wouldn't that be a nice thing to have people being able to visit each other in the hospital again? Also keep Sherry Davis, Eddie Davis's wife Sherry, and the rest of their family in your prayers. Sherry's father died earlier this week, and she lost her mom just a couple years ago. I think it was 2019. She just lost her dad. We're going to have that service here tomorrow. I believe it's at 1 o'clock. And also keep the Fulchers in your prayers. And this hasn't gone out on the Vine yet. I just talked to Janet this evening. Pat Fulcher has died, which was a big shock to me, to her as well. He has been in the hospital and in and out of rehab centers, back and forth between the hospital and rehab centers for a very long time now. But they had finally gotten him stabilized, and were getting ready to move him actually to a facility in Waldorf. And I think they had actually gotten him into the wheelchair, and he just passed before he left the building. Pat was a larger-than-life guy, a very gentle soul. Got to miss him quite a bit, and I'll be meeting with her on Saturday to start planning for that service. I do have the dates for the service, though. I think the times might not be finalized just yet. Well, one of them is. The viewing will be May 10 at Brinsfield's at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7. And then the service will be here the following day, Tuesday, midday. We got to work out the exact timing on that. He's going to be buried up in Cheltenham. I know we need to be on the road by 1 that day. And the reason it's so far out is because of the pandemic. Some of you probably already know this, but because of the pandemic, transporting the deceased across state lines right now is a big deal, a much bigger deal than it normally is. So one more thing that if we could get this pandemic behind us, it'd make a lot of people's grief a lot easier. Whenever you have a prolonged time between the person's death and the service, it complicates grief. Also, keep Holly in your prayers. She's not well yet. We think we understand what is going on with her, and we think we just have to wait for her body to recover from everything that has gone on. We did go to D.C. today to get some more tests done just to be sure we know what's going on. But she is still in pain every night. She still has a mild fever every night. It is still interfering with her schoolwork. So please keep her in your prayers. I think that is everything that I have going on in the life of the church right now. I am a little bit disconnected. I apologize for that. Well, yeah, I've been gone. Well, not physically gone, but I haven't been keeping in touch while I was on vacation as much as I normally do. So I'm not seeing any more prayer concerns coming up in the chat right now. Well, I'll give a congratulations to Jenny Edwards because her daughter got married last week, so congratulations to that. Tony says that her stepmother passed away Sunday morning. She moved to Dallas a few years after her dad passed away. She was able to go see her each year, but not last year because of COVID. Had plans to go this summer. Yeah, very sad. I'm so sorry, Tony. I did not know that. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on for a lot of people these days. And Wendy says, replying to Tony Hayes, so sorry for your loss. Yeah. One of the things that has changed recently on the Facebook app, every morning I go onto Facebook to wish people a happy birthday. It's one of the little things I do that makes me happy first thing in the morning is if I know you and you're having a birthday, I'm wishing you a happy birthday if it's your birthday. And I go on, but one of the things that Facebook has added is this stupid video tab. And I click on it just to make the notifications go away. But an awful lot of the videos on there are videos that people have taken of people basically throwing tantrums in public, whether they're racist rants or entitled customer rants or uncooperative travelers on airplanes rants, people just absolutely losing their minds on the people around them. And it's because, I don't mean to minimize personal accountability in all of this, there should be more. Everybody is just dealing with so much right now that we forget, folks, just think about how much you're dealing with right now. Think of some of the more challenging times you've been through in the last year, and understand that there are people out there right now who are dealing with even worse. And these are the people that are snapping and yelling at the people around them and behaving in inappropriate ways. And one of the things that we need to be doing as a church is to helping people be more resilient. So when the storms of life come raging, we have a solid foundation to stand upon. All right. So to that end, let us end our time tonight with the Serenity Prayer. God, give me grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, the courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Good evening, my friends. I'll see y'all next week.